Live Soft,
Die Hard,
The Night Before Yesterday,
The Day After Tomorrow,
Save Phil,
Kill Bill,
Bad Won't Fishing,
Good Will Hunting. Kate Bush.
Yeah.
You like Kate Bush?
Yeah, I like a couple of her songs. I don't sound like a huge fan, but I enjoy it when it's on.
Apart from
Run up
Yeah.
the road. Yeah, I don't know. I probably couldn't name you another one.
Oh, Philistine. Do you think it's... here's the thing. There seems to be a bit of a snobbery.
Kate Bush.
Kate Bush. No, there always seems to be a snobbery when a massive audience gets into a new one, gets into an artist when the artist's music is used in some...
You only like
show.
that because you saw it on
Yeah,
Popular
there
Show
seems to be,
X.
there's always like this backlash of like, oh my god, like, so obviously we're talking about Kate Bush because it's used in Stranger Things, right? You're running. I know you haven't seen it, but you're
makes
aware of
sense.
you've seen the news stories about like Kate Bush released Running Up That Hill in 1985, and now it's just like in the charts, like bum 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 bum, doing amazing.
Didn't know, but that makes sense. That happens a lot though.
But no, this is a bigger one because this is heading to number one. I don't want to say that because it's going to date. Let me say that.
It's
again.
fine. As of recording.
We are recording. So maybe you're listening to this and Kate Bush has made it to number one with Running Up the Hill 37 years later, which what amazing. What a story. It's
great for her.
What a time to be alive. But I always find that when that happens, when, an older artist, also a very well-respected artist, and then is sort of intersected with a show which has a mass audience and people then get into a music that there's always these like anoraks in the corner who go, well, yeah, but you don't really know Kate Bush because you weren't around to listen to her 1978 first debut, actually.
Yeah.
And
People like you, George.
but no, because actually, I think there's always a first time for hearing a song. There's always a first time for discovering stuff. I mean, I'm not 500 Days of Summer, which we talked about before, right? Not a perfect film, but I got into 3 major bands through that. When I was 17, the Smiths, obviously.
Hall & Oates, maybe a bit.
Hall & Oates,
okay,
yeah, Hall & Oates are
Smiths.
great. And Simon &
I
Garfunkel.
was going to say, is it Regina Spektor who does the song?
Regina Spektor.
That? Yes.
Oh my goodness,
Regina
really
Spektor,
good.
yeah.
So,
the fact that I knew those, like, without having thought about that film for years, is also quite a testament to the film, even though it's dated.
The music, the soundtrack is pretty good in that film.
Yeah.
And the Sweet Disposition. I mean, obviously everyone knew Sweet Disposition.
yeah.
Like, that's used in that. And Mushaboom by Feist. That's also in that soundtrack. Up in the kitchen. Oh, well, I'm not going to do it. What's the point if you don't know it? But do you know
how else are people meant to...
Exactly.
Unless they grow up with someone who's from the era who loves that song, you're probably going to find it in films, TV.
But I'm not you see what I mean, don't you? You see these people being like, oh, you only know that because it's in Stranger Things, or you only know because it's in 500 Days of Summer. I was like, well, yeah, I do.
Sure.
But that's how you discover. So I think I only know Running Up That Hill by Kate Bush because I saw Drive, and that begins with Tick the Clock by the Chromatics, which got me listening to the Chromatics. And then Chromatics did this cover of Running Up That Hill, which I didn't realise was a cover at first. So I listened to that. Then I realised it was a cover. Then I get into Running Up the Hill. Then I get into sort of the wider Kate Bush. I mean, I was already aware of Wuthering Heights, but then,
I remember listening to the Nightcall song from Drive over and over.
Kavinsky.
Boom, boom, boom,
Great.
boom,
Great
boom,
use of music.
boom. And then they used to sync like his movements, like flicking off a light switch with the boom.
Yeah.
There's something. It's a great cover by London Grammar of that song as well.
Oh, yeah, a bit moody.
It's all there. All there.
I remember seeing, I actually do quite like London Grammar, actually. Sorry.
Beautiful music.
I remember seeing a video. I like you. I saw Drive, and I was like, "Whoa, Kavinsky! That opening song, such a great track.
This is so creative."
Yeah, and then I remember like googling that song, like I couldn't get enough of it. And this guy had released a piano cover of it. He covered it like in a classical version of it, like 4 years before Drive. And one of the comments was like, "This guy was like, you don't realise this guy's not done this because he loves Drive. Yeah. He did this 4 years ago, and this has just been sitting in this corner of the internet, waiting to come forward. Now is your time."
The best is on sometimes like a song that's popular because of insert TV show.
Yes.
Someone will comment in the YouTube, God, I love this song, just discovered it in Stranger Things or insert popular show, and they will get destroyed by replies. Be like, oh, why would you even blah 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 blah? But like, what's the alternative? Do you remember there was that phase where every single Christmas the number one was the winner of the X Factor, and it was like this year Matt Cardle number one. Nothing against Matt Cardle, but it kind of just swallowed up.
Yeah.
that whole Christmas thing? It's like, would you rather it was something current that was a bit like, it's kind of just a byproduct of attention versus something that's actually good that's getting attention again?
Yeah, I think I know what you mean. I mean, I
don't know what you just said.
I don't know what you just said, but I think it's a shame when you have to discover songs there's always a first time for hearing it. Sure. And if it reaches the new generation, well, that's wonderful, because there will be people who listen to that song on repeat, but there will also be people who stick around and go, I'm going to listen to more Kate Bush.
What if they go out and buy a Kate Bush t-shirt and they've only heard of one song? Are they allowed to do that at the party? They're wearing Kate Bush shirt.
Oh, well, I love Kate Bush. Running up here. What other songs do you love? A Deal with God. Isn't that the same song? Just the title in brackets.
Running up that road.
Running up that hill. No Promises. Really like it.
That whole album, really.
But that is the cliche, isn't it? The person who hears one song, loves it. But
name one Slasher song.
Slasher? I don't know. Thrasher, you mean? No.
Slasher's also a band.
Yeah, Kate Bush, really like it.
So how is Stranger Things season 4?
Oh, because of the Kate Bush connection.
Well, I assume that's why you bring it up.
Yeah, you know what? So I haven't finished the first batch of episodes. I'm a bit behind. You know, most people have kind of barreled through them.
How many have you seen?
I've probably seen a good 4, but there's 7.
Okay.
And, before I started watching them, I was a bit nervous because
I wonder what's going to happen.
No, but it's an interesting thing, Stranger Things, because they finished season 3. You haven't seen it.
I've seen season 1 and then I didn't love it, and I just couldn't be asked.
And are you happy for me to just?
I'm happy for you to spoil it.
And I think if you're listening to this and you haven't watched Stranger Things, you're never going to watch it.
Spoilers for Stranger Things season 4 up to the
point
4,
that this guy has seen it.
Assume the other seasons are at risk.
Stranger Things is a funny one because it ended season 3 quite neatly.
Has it been a while since the last season? Or
2019.
Okay,
slightly exacerbated
emotionally
by
a while.
Pandemic.
Yeah.
And this happens sometimes when a show finishes a bit too neatly, even though it hasn't finished its arc. It's happened in Mad Men. They wrapped season 5 and it was so well done.
Right.
And they had 2 more seasons to go that you were like, I'm kind of done emotionally. I've had closure.
Yeah.
So at the end of season 3, there's this big thing where David Harbour's character gets killed off, and it's like, wow, my God, this thing. But they commit to David Harbour being dead for about 3 minutes, and then they go, just kidding, he's actually probably in Russia. He might actually be fine.
At the end of season 3 or at the start of season 4?
Well, here's the thing. So at the end of season 3, he's dead, and there's a huge emotional catharsis. It's a really great way of ending that season. It really works. And then at the post-credit sequence of season 3, it's like they're in this massive gulag, and you don't see him, but someone's like, don't get him out, don't get the American out of there. So it could be, they've clearly left the door open at that point for him to be there. And I was like, I really hope they commit to someone being dead, because 3 seasons in and all this threat, like somebody needs to die at some point.
No one dies anymore.
No one dies.
Exactly.
Actually,
no one dies
and
anymore.
they don't, because sure enough, they did a teaser and he's fine. The character is fine. The character is alive. So that's disappointing.
I have a running bet with myself that Robert Downey Jr. in the Avengers is not dead.
I think that would be a big mistake to bring about.
I completely agree.
People would be so cynical.
I know, but I have this whatever time dimension. I just know he's coming
Even
back.
like a cameo or something.
Cameo, yeah. It's just, he's not dead. I'm not talking about flashback. I mean, like,
anyway. So Stranger Things. So going into season 4, it's like, okay, you had a neat ending, despite that Hopper thing, and now you're heading into season 4. You know this sort of messy link is still there. There's 7 episodes coming out, James.
Yeah.
Each one is a different length. They are like feature length.
Right.
First episode was like an hour and 20. Then it's like an hour and 10. Then an hour. Then an hour and 16. Then an hour and 15.
Does that make you nervous because you don't know what you're getting yourself into?
It does make me nervous because
you rather know.
I'd rather have consistency so I can allocate my time better of when to watch it. Oh, I can put that on because I know that's an hour.
Is that bad pacing then?
Here's the thing. I thought when I see those episodes with inconsistent timings, I'm like, this strikes me as a show which doesn't know where to put its focus. You know, it doesn't know how to hold it together. So when I started watching it, I thought, is this show going to know, this series going to really know where it's heading? Anyway, I'm halfway through. Look, it is what Stranger Things is always is. It's very engaging.
Is it the last season?
No, it's the penultimate season.
Yeah, it's kind of...
The final episode of this season is 2 hours and 20.
It's usually...
That's just the finale.
2:20.
Yeah, that's a feature length. Each episode is feature length, right? So this season,
but like there's feature length hour 20 and there's feature length 2:20. Those are completely different commitments.
But anyway, this season is really.
God, it better be good.
Well, here's the thing. It's big. It's big. They've no pun intended. They have turned it up to 11, right?
Okay.
They've really gone for it.
Yeah.
And look, Stranger Things season 4 is a bit like a season of Game of Thrones. Actually, they have
which season?
Which season? They have so many storylines and plots now that it's spread itself so thin. It's messy. I'm enjoying it. I'm watching it. It is what it always is. It's engaging. It's heartfelt. Great visuals. Super budget. But I have to say, like, there are the first 2 episodes in particular. You're like, gee, it feels like the screenwriters are like Kramer in Seinfeld driving the fire truck.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
Oh God!
And he's coming at me, and I grab the wheel.
The hit's trying to spin around, and they're like, it's like the story is like careening around, and they're trying to like pump it full of lore, Lore, you like lore, you know, and build this new sort of world. And it's just like, what? It's like being hit over the head with just information. And because of that, the scenes are kind of short. They are lacking in a bit of nuance. The dialogue is not great at all. Like, there's these, the first 2 episodes, there's this subplot with a bully at a high school who's bullying 11, right? And it is the most generic school bullying you could ever see.
Yeah.
And that really bothers me because bullying is actually quite calculated and cunning and quite horrible, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's quite manipulative. But
bullying could be done really well in fiction sometimes.
Yes,
Like, it could be like
it
more
should be
complex
cruel. Yeah, to be
than-
cruel, it's quite thought out. But this is just like, oh, you dropped your book. Like the whole school laughs as if everyone's on their side. It's just really, really like it's like the screenwriters watched one 1980s teen film and went, that'll do. And they also begin this season with launching this new story off of characters you've never met before. I really like bringing in new characters. That's fine. You've got to expand the world. And I like the idea that there are bad things happening to people who aren't the main characters.
Yeah.
But in the first 2 episodes, they front load. They introduce like all these new characters. And you're like, oh, hi. And then they're just like, and then they're dead. And then they're dead. And they did this thing in the past. Great. Do you remember that? No, that's right. They're dead. Oh, what? So by the time you get to episode 3 and you're back with our regular crew, it's fine. But in the first 2 episodes, they're just reacting to stuff. Like our main characters are just reacting. That said, I am, it is pretty enjoyable. One thing I want to ask is, and Stranger Things has always had this problem, where's the line for how much you can reference something before it becomes just like you're just ripping it off, right? Where's the line between ripping something off and, heartily, playfully invoking something?
Like taking inspiration from its style or its...
Well, so this season of Stranger Things, season 4, heavily, heavily borrows from Nightmare on Elm Street.
Oh, right, okay.
You've got these teenagers who
You think almost
snap
too
into
much.
this dream state, which the real world that looks like the real world, but it's actually a dream state, and you've got this boogeyman, creeping after them, and they kind of go into this trance they can't be awoken from. And I saw Nightmare on Elm Street recently. That's why it's in my head. But it's really strong. And then there's this bit which they try and do what they always do with Stranger Things. They try and get away with it by bringing in a guest character for one episode, and the character in it, who's been built up for a couple of episodes, is the guy who played Freddy Krueger. They bring in Robert Englund, right?
Okay.
So I was like, oh, I see. So I see what you did there. In the same way that season 1 was a little bit like Aliens, they brought in Paul Reiser for the second season because he's from Aliens. And the same way there's the whole Goonies vibe with Stranger Things, and they got in Sean Astin.
Fine, okay.
And this one, it's like, okay, I see what you're doing. You're bringing in Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger. But
are they just doing a little bit of a victory lap around some great 80s
yeah,
horror?
but I don't know. I'm not sure that can let them off the hook. I just felt like
It's hard because I haven't seen it, but I can see why it might feel a little bit like, oh yeah, we're doing that.
Most people won't even get the references. Most because it's reaching such a massive audience. Stranger Things,
Yeah,
it just
it's
won't.
huge.
It won't. But for me, I'm like, okay, there's one thing subtly invoking it being playful, but you guys are really using the framework and setup of Nightmare on Elm Street to shape this whole season.
I have a question about the show as a whole. Because I know Netflix very much has this approach of let's commission the first series of everything and see what sticks. Does it feel like now it's in its 4th season, you said there's going to be a 5th, does it feel like, okay, first season would have been one thing, but does it feel like the show is leading to one thing that makes sense through the entire show?
Yeah, just about. It does.
Yeah, that's good.
I think it does. Oh, it might not have been
That's
always.
my fear nowadays
Yeah.
with the massive TV commissioning budgets. It's like everything comes out.
It might not have been the plan all along, but I think Stranger Things is like at the
Works.
front of the queue for all the money and resource that Netflix has. So they have, whether it was pre-planned or not, they seem to be getting away with it.
Yeah.
Season 1 was interesting. Season 2 is a little bit murky. Then season 3 was more tight and focused and great. And then this is trying to world build a bit more. Like it's just massive. It's just massive, and it can barely contain itself, and it's sort of working. I want to just say I am enjoying it, and I'm looking forward to finishing this batch of episodes. And as ever, cast are great. Love all the 80s shite.
Yeah.
But it's just interesting when you just watch something that's full of such bombast. And
I feel like Netflix's hit rate right now, obviously Stranger Things came out a long time ago, the first series, and it's been one of their biggest hits. But I feel like the Netflix hit rate for new stuff has become so low. New films, new movies. I know there are some really great things on there, and I've enjoyed some great things on there. But for me right now, Netflix serves this purpose of like, oh, that show I used to like is on now. Or that movie I haven't seen. Oh, that's on. And then there's loads of stuff which I go, that new thing with Adam Sandler, which could be great.
Yeah.
Because I haven't read a review, not that I should be so cynical and only read reviews. I'm like, I don't have faith that the Netflix stamp on it is going to really reflect that much.
yeah, there was a
about
time when like a Netflix original, I was like, oh, quality content.
Yeah.
Like, this meant something.
You
And
can almost
now-
count them on your hand.
Yeah,
Go, these are really good.
And now it's just the Netflix stamp is on every type of TV content, the mediocre, the rubbish, and the great.
And I feel like there's such an incentive to get that first season that hits out. I'm worried that like the brief being sent out, or like the unintentional brief being sent out to all the writers is, write one really good season. Just make sure like,
and then we'll figure it out.
And then we'll figure it out. Like
Yeah.
don't, and like, who has the time or the money to like, plan 5 shows before it's been commissioned. But I worry that we've become this very like consolidated.
Get your foot in the door.
Just worry about turning up, and then we'll then actually see if you can do the job.
It's not a bad point. I mean, Stranger Things, the first season came out in 2016.
Yes, what?
That's a while
In
back.
TV world, that's a long time.
That's
ago.
a long time, but to still stay relevant and still stay on the streams,
absolutely.
that's still pretty good. But anyway, maybe I'll let you know what happens when I get to the end of it.
Yeah, I'd be
It's
curious.
good. I'm just saying, like, whoa, this season's big. This season, and just about getting away with it. But yeah, talking about Netflix content, it's interesting comparing like the huge behemoth of Stranger Things in terms of its storytelling with Better Call Saul, which is what I'm also watching at the moment. You couldn't have 2 more different shows in terms of their approach.
And the Vince Gilligan shows always feel like they know where they're going.
Totally. And Better Call Saul is in its final season. Again, it's split. So it's in the first batch of episodes now. And every time I watch it, I just think the storytelling and approach is so precise and clean and well crafted. It feels like you're watching someone like a carpenter craft a table, a nice bit of woodwork. Yeah, it's just beautiful. And I was watching an episode and I was really thinking about what is it that's working? What is it doing that works really well? And watching Better Call Saul is like being sat across from someone who's doing a card trick, right? And each episode they'll lay out their first card. And you'll have no idea what it is. So in this case, most Better Call Saul episodes, the episode begins with an abstract thing. It'll be a tight close-up of a random object. And then it'll zoom out a little bit, but you'll have no idea of the context of where this object is. And it's going through a process. And you're being told this story about this very tiny detail about something. It could be an ice cream cone. It could be like a bit of a shard of glass on the ground.
A Cinnabon.
Exactly. But you have no idea what it's relating to. And then it will just end, and then the credits will come up, and you'll think, okay, why have they shown me that? Why have they begun the episode with that? That must come back later. And then the episode begins, and it's like the dealer's put down another card, and you look at it and you go, okay, I think I see what's happening here. They're going to bring that in relation to that. And then halfway through the episode, they'll put down the third card, and it's got nothing to do with the other two.
Yeah.
And it completely throws you, and you're going, hang on. So how is that going to go there if that relates to that? And then the episode ends with them putting down the fourth and final card, and you go, oh, I see how these things all connect. I see that bit at the beginning and everything. It's perfectly crafted. And what I like about Better Call Saul, it does that on both like a micro and macro level. So like I said, in an episode it will do that. It will also do that in a scene. It'll begin with like let's say that there's one episode where someone's having a lunch date. It will begin with their chair leg on the trying to find the right position in because this person is nervous. But it'll also do it on a macro level at the beginning of each season of Better Call Saul. You have this non sequitur, this black and white non sequitur of where Saul is in present day as we know it post Breaking Bad. And I just love that. I love it being it's in the hands of someone who knows what they're doing so well and at that level of craftsmanship. And it's like being titillated. It's like being a child seeing a magic trick going, I love, oh, do it again. Yeah,
another season.
Yeah, do it again. Because every time they without being showy, without being over the top, because it's not, big thrills or anything, Better Call Saul, they manage to thrill you by very clever, simple storytelling tricks.
I'd love to see the kind of almost Nolan-esque spider graph of the plot on page, because I wonder if it's written similar to like what great murder mysteries are, where they start with the end and work their way back in order to get to that point. And that's sort of a good way to go. Well, you can't not know how your murder mystery is going to end because you have to have clues throughout the whole way through it.
Because it would have been like Saul. We know Saul as this criminal lawyer, as in he's a criminal lawyer.
Yeah.
He's not got a moral compass. But how did he get to that point? And clearly Vince Gilligan had that idea. And the great thing about Better Call Saul is that they made it after coming off the back of Breaking Bad, which might spell disaster for some people, but actually it's like they were at the height of their powers.
Yeah,
they'd honed the Breaking Bad storytelling.
How many years between finale and the start of Saul?
Only just under 2 years.
Oh, so really fast.
Really fast turnaround. And you can tell it's like they didn't have time to go away and do something else. They're experts at doing that Breaking Bad's world, at building that world, and then they turn up to Better Call Saul and just fly with it. That's why I think Better Call Saul is better than Breaking Bad, because it starts great and continues like that, whereas Breaking Bad took the first 2 seasons to really find itself.
Those are Breaking Bad bros. Breaking Bad bros are all like, what typing now furiously? Breaking Bad is not a show of all time.
But then I would say to these Breaking Bad bros, like, well, where are you for Better Call Saul? Because
I'm sure they are loving it.
But Better Call Saul was like the quiet show that didn't get the loud attention because it hasn't got people getting dissolved in a bucket of acid.
I also think, like, in typical Vince Gilligan fashion, that show, as you've just very well described, it creeps up on you slowly.
Yeah.
And it gives you just enough evidence or just enough little nibbles,
just
enough information for when it hits and you go, oh my God, I'm so rewarded now. I've done 3, 4, 5 seasons.
Really respecting the intelligence of and
the attention span almost.
But
it's like, do you remember that thing I showed you 2 seasons ago?
Yeah,
like,
oh my God.
Here it is.
Yeah. I mean, that's the because there are big gaps between the seasons of Better Call Saul. But just comparing that with like Stranger Things, where currently with Stranger Things season 4, they are front-loading the information all the time. Just like, hey, we need you to know this in this scene right now because we are building towards the final of Stranger Things, so you must know this. Don't forget it. Anyway, Better Call Saul, it's wrapping up. It's just so well crafted. I love it.
I am desperate to go into the new season, but I just feel like it's been years since I've done it. I'm going to go back from the beginning, treat myself to it all the way through because I know how rewarding it will be. But can't wait.
Okay, James, I think we should talk about TV today, right? You and I have talked about TV here and there throughout our show, and we talked a little bit earlier about Stranger Things and Better Call Saul. But the thing is, TV is so big now that it's time to sort of dedicate a whole episode to just looking at how TV has changed, I think, and how we consume it, because it's changed so much in the past decade. So I kind of want to focus now on just like the last 10 years.
Okay.
Right? In the last 10 years, let's say 12 years, it sort of goes to like the early last decade, right?
Yeah, okay.
Since then, the way we consume television, the way we think of television has changed so much that to talk about TV from then and now, it's almost incomparable. You know, it was called the golden age of TV, right? I mean, they called it that because it was the referencing.
People still say it's.
Yeah, well, technically it's the second golden age of TV because the first one's maybe the 50s, right? So this was like, this is like the new golden age of TV.
I feel like you could even chapter it in a more fine way, to be honest. Like you could.
What I wanted to do is I thought, you know, you and I have watched a lot of shows as well as films, and there was a lot of craftsmanship there. There's a lot of shows that we really, really love. I wanted to run through the sort of typical tentpoles of the golden age of TV.
Okay.
Get your kind of take on them, but also throw you some shows that I think are relevant within that I think don't get mentioned as much, okay?
Fine.
So just for context of people, when we talk about the golden age of TV, it's, as I said, begins at the sort of beginning of the last decade, And it takes the baton from prestige TV in the first decade of the noughties, right? So when you think of things like The Sopranos, The Wire, The West Wing even, and moving into later Mad Men and Breaking Bad, these very...
or even like Band of Brothers is a really early one.
Yeah, although that's different because that's a limited series.
Fine, okay.
But I agree. And Band of Brothers, by the way, hasn't dated at all. Like, it's such a great show.
Yeah. That's a box set I see at everyone's house.
It's a great
Everyone's
show.
got Band
So
of Brothers
good.
on DVD.
Oh,
yeah.
I could watch that every 5 years.
Sorry for the tangent.
No, it's great. So that's what I call typically prestige TV. And just to, on that point, frame this conversation, a lot of these shows are typically American because that's where the kind of the trend is being led.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are dramas. But with that, so those kind of shows, The Sopranos, The Wire, they kind of pioneered, deeper storytelling, much more well-crafted writing, much more cinematic influences. And then at the beginning of the last decade, it just kind of took off. So really, I kind of see this beginning with House of Cards coming onto Netflix in 2013, which was not Netflix's first original. Do you know what Netflix's first original drama series was?
Not Orange is the New Black?
No, good guess though.
No, go on. What is
it was Lilyhammer. Do you remember?
No,
Lilyhammer for me is almost nostalgic for being like that era of Netflix. When like that was do you remember it had like Stephen Van Zandt from The Sopranos in it?
Yes.
And he like moved to Scandinavia and he was a mob guy.
Vaguely, but
And
I've not thought about it.
I'd always be like, oh, Netflix makes their own shows. Moving on. But I think House of Cards was a real definitive step.
Turning point.
And I remember it just sort of being talked about at the time.
It had a really good, do you know what it also did? It had a really good mass appeal for different generations.
Yes.
I think everyone was attracted to it. And it was like, I need to go watch that House of Cards.
Exactly.
Anecdotally, I felt like, they've got House of Cards, don't they,
Yes.
on Netflix? And that was such it's a subscription enabler, I
So
think.
you at the time you had very prestigious talent with Kevin Spacey. You also had David Fincher helming it. Right off the back of The Social Network,
Directed the pilot and
with the Dragon
everything.
Tattoo. Yeah, really, his influence on it was huge.
And
You
visually
had-
as well, it was a Fincher-esque.
totally, yeah. So
piece.
a real pedigree there. You had the sort of the writing. Bo Willimon, I think, was the showrunner, sort of playwright before, and it was also based on a very prestigious British television show from like 30 years before.
Yeah.
But with House of Cards, I think that was the moment people saw, wow, Netflix are serious about making big spectacle
As good
drama
as
series.
something that
As
could be
good
on
as something-
an HBO, right?
Yep. And as good as something that could be in the cinema, right? So first of all, I just want to get, do you have any thoughts on House of Cards? Did you watch it?
Really liked the first few seasons, and then I think it ran out of steam, never finished it, because when my opportunity to finish it was there, I knew about the drama of Kevin Spacey dropping out and the fact that the show didn't feel like it was going anywhere. Kevin Spacey issues aside, I felt like, I don't really feel like this is going to land a plane. I've moved on. I also feel like in the years that it took for those last few seasons to come out, TV, as I'm sure you're going to reveal, had also moved on, and I just never really felt that compelled to go back.
Yeah, and not just TV, but I think I've spoken about this before on the show, but politics as well.
Oh, God, yeah, that's so worth mentioning.
In 2013, you're like the height of the Obama
Oh my God,
era
yeah.
of slick politicians.
So first season was 2013.
2013, right? That's when it comes out. But, by 2016, Trump's election it completely changes our perception of how politics works.
It takes the steam out of that show completely.
Yes, this whole idea that it's like whispery people being all conniving behind
An
the
affair. Ooh,
yeah, I know.
That's
I know.
We have people storming the Capitol this year. That happened this year.
Exactly. So House of Cards, in the space of only 5 years, managed to date and sort of wither on the vine.
Yeah, like their stolen election plot. Do you remember that?
Yeah. So
sorry,
but
I'm
that's
just
the thing.
thinking about
House of
the
Cards was
last 4 years.
2013 to 2018. It's amazing in 5 years how it went from
Yeah.
being the hot show. And I like you, I watched I think 4 seasons, loved it.
Yeah, 4 seasons.
And then something happened. I think it was just too much of the same. Like there was just, you needed a bit more victory. Like there was no.
It's very relentless.
The idea of bringing down Frank was taking a bit too long, and it was a bit relentless. So I never went back to it. And then Trump won, and it was like, oh, this is out of date now. This is expired. And then I never finished. And then obviously the Kevin Spacey drama happened, kind of overshadowed the whole thing. And I thought, I'm not going to finish it because I know that was not the intention of how you're going to finish this drama.
Do you think also that one of the USPs of House of Cards is how you always said it's cinematic and it's slick? Do you think that USP wore off as everything else?
Yes, exactly.
Just as equally
this is
cinematic
it.
and
so
slick.
I think House of Cards fired the starter pistol, and for the first 3 years, it was able to maintain the sort of dominant position as like the prestigious TV show.
Yeah.
But then, increasingly as the years went on, more and more prestigious shows came through, as I'm about to talk about. I think a really important show within the history of that golden age of TV is in 2014, the year after, is when True Detective comes out.
Yes.
And I remember seeing these big billboards with Matthew McConaughey and Woody Harrelson on it, looking at it thinking, that should be a film. That is, for all intents and purposes, a movie that has been extended, deepened, and crafted into a TV series. Ironically, of course, Woody Harrelson began in TV. He's one of those few actors that made the leap from TV to film. And, you know, True Detective, it stands up for, you know, it's incredibly cinematic, has that extended take, and, you know, and Carrie Fukunaga, who went on to do Bond recently. Yeah. Great show, but it was like, I remember there was something that's like, oh my God, Matthew McConaughey and Woody Harrelson are doing a TV show that's like, looks and feels like a film.
The writing is so sharp as well. Like you get in there and you're like, whoa.
That first season of True Detective is pretty excellent.
I've not seen the second one. I just watched the first one.
Well,
because I've heard.
There's a caveat. I was going to talk about True Detective, in that it also set up this example of a bit like how you're talking before about great first season and then not really knowing what to do with the success of it with the second season. Okay, so True Detective, I don't think there is a stronger example for a great first season and a rougher second season. So season 2 of True Detective comes along, and it's got all the classic like fatal flaws: bigger, louder, more storylines. You had 4 main characters: Colin Farrell, Vince Vaughn. Vince Vaughn was like one of his first like serious roles.
Yeah.
Rachel McAdams, Taylor Kitsch,
right,
and I don't know why I've built that up to imagine there's like a 5th person. That was the 4, right?
Fine.
And it was so overstuffed. I remember in the first episode, it's one of the few times in the TV that I've had to pause and rewind a scene 3 times because the dialogue was so incomprehensible. I couldn't understand what the characters were asking each other to do. I remember there's a bit where Colin Farrell goes to the police station to meet his like blowhard superior, and the dialogue is so generic, hammy, and non-specific, and also doesn't help the class thing with TV. There's noise upstairs, there's mumbling, and you're like, what is going on? And that show really, that season was so messy. And I wanted to mention it because also that happened with Mr. Robot. Did you ever watch Mr. Robot?
I watched a few episodes and I just for some reason didn't get into it.
Oh, interesting. I loved the first season, and again that invoked kind of in clever ways a bit of cinema. I remember the character of Tyrell Wellick in Mr. Robot was like a little bit of Patrick Bateman, a little bit of Fight Club, a little bit of this stuff. And it was really exciting, and I loved it. And then season 2, it's bigger, more storylines, more stuff. And it's clear that the writers just weren't ready to. They might have fashioned this great first season over 2 years because they were pitching it around to people, so they'd had time. But then they're given 6 months to turn it around into season 2, and they're like, "Oh my God, I have to make this into a compelling show." And it was rough, really, really rough. And it actually killed that show for me because I got to the end of season 2 and I thought, I can't watch any more of this.
This is why I don't go back and watch it, because I hear that.
Exactly, and it just puts you off. And I had people come to me saying, "Oh no, season 3 gets much better." I'm like, that's too late. You're asking me to sit through 10-hour-long episodes to get to that point?
You know how many times you and I have said TV is so great because you get to spend so much time with the characters, and isn't it wonderful that you can take years to tell a story? And in so many ways, that's amazing. But also, taking years to tell your story, you can lose people. Things change, budgets change, writers change, directors change, stars come in and out, and like it's actually this really impossible balancing act.
Yeah, I mean.
And sorry, that other thing you're saying about, you know, watching it at home, you're prone to so many distractions. How much does that affect how people are going to write TV shows versus like the movie experience? I assume you're watching it in a cinema, we hope.
True, yeah.
Suck it all out. I've got your attention. TV is so much more of like, you're going to pause it here and there. You might run in and out. You might stop episodes halfway through. Are you binging it? We don't know.
I think it's also, True Detective is interesting because obviously you have big name talent at the time coming into TV. So 2014 is significant for True Detective. Can I just go back to that? Because Matthew McConaughey that was his like year. He'd won an Oscar for Dallas Buyers Club. He had that standout scene in Wolf of Wall Street. He's going to be in Interstellar. And then he comes onto TV at the peak of the McConaissance.
Yeah.
Comes on TV. That's when people are like, TV have got the hottest talent right now. Okay. But interesting with Mr. Robot and also later with Stranger Things, you see this trend that began to happen where sort of former movie stars who weren't really breaking through anymore in main films were having opportunities and roles given to them in these upcoming TV projects. So with Mr. Robot, it's Christian Slater.
Yeah.
And with Stranger Things, it's Winona Ryder. These former stars, different from a different era, from a different decade, that are then given like a second life with a different generation. And it works in their favor, and it kind of revives their career. Also, I think, to a lesser extent, but just Big Little Lies is another series where great first season. I absolutely loved it.
I remember everyone talking about it. Yeah.
Again, full of big talent, and it was just by that point just assumed that that's what TV could get. It could get Nicole Kidman and Reese Witherspoon and Shailene Woodley.
Huge stars. Huge stars. Say it like that.
Second season is good, but it just doesn't really need to exist.
Right.
The first season is really great. And then we head into 2016. Now, I've made this point before, and I don't want to labour it again, but the whole thing with Westworld, right? That's when you've had like the ascendancy period where TV has become prestigious and is building up. And then I think when you get to Westworld, it's like that's the moment where TV peaked and everyone was like, it's like the stock market. It's like, go make TV now, go. Everyone,
here's
just do what you
$100
can.
million.
$100 million. I don't care. Just cram it full of talent. And also I think it's important to say in the background context of this is Game of Thrones.
Which you could arguably say was the biggest show of the 2010s.
Biggest show, absolutely.
Yeah.
So that show began in 2011. And with every year, it became bigger and bigger. And as the conversations went on and people became more and more obsessive about
it. The show got bigger, literally, in its budget and its scale.
And that also shaped how TV was, because at first it was like, oh, this show, which looks very silly, it's actually very deep and full of good writing. And by the end, it was like, these shows are as big as blockbusters. Each episode of Game of Thrones by the end was costing what, $1 million, 2 million,
something like
10,
something
10 million.
Crazy
No, it was like 10 million, wasn't it? It was
the last series was insane. I don't know. I can't remember off the top of my head.
But
it was in the millions per episode, whereas they started with like less than 100,000.
So just charting Game of Thrones on its own is almost charting like the structure of.
I think that was the thing about Game of Thrones, is that I think in passing I've seen shows that look like Game of Thrones but come and go, like Britannia, and that's post Game of Thrones. But I feel like I've seen other shows that have that kind of vibe, but Game of Thrones always was like, no, the writing, the story's actually really good and it's compelling, and it had this. I think its hook was, how's it going to end? That was like, well, what will happen?
And that was also its fatal flaw.
We can talk about Game of Thrones a whole other time, but yes.
Well, in a way, we can say it now, because I'm just looking at my sort of timeline. From like post Westworld and until 2019, I think 2019 is a really important year, not just because it's the end of the decade, but
the end of our lives as we do it.
But we've got more and more content being put up. But I think 2019 is almost not the end of the golden age of TV, but the beginning of the post golden age of TV.
Okay.
Because first of all, Game of Thrones ends, right? Yeah. This big show that has defined all this content finishes, right? And the era of obsessive watching kind of stops, and no show really is there to fill its place. You kind of just go on and watch your other thing. But by that point, by 2019, we are so used to TV being so high quality that Game of Thrones leaves the TV landscape in a completely different way. Secondly, in 2019, the big thing that happens is that Disney Plus enters the arena.
Yeah.
And when Disney Plus enters and is making TV shows that are based on films, interweave with films, with like the Marvel things. So they entered 2019 with The Mandalorian, but then but that just says to you, this era now of TV being a breakaway and flourishing on itself outside of film is kind of over, because the boundaries now are wiped out. With Disney moving into the market, it's where do you draw the line between Loki relates to the Marvel Cinematic Universe and WandaVision and all this, and the Mandalorian. So
you could easily argue, and I could base this on discussions I've had with friends, where like TV feels like the first instinct of what people want to watch in a week, and they will then go, oh, I could go and see a film in cinema, but that is not like now the default response. Yeah, TV has moved into that place.
So I think now when there are big shows out, it hasn't got that same excitement of, oh my God, there's loads of new things coming through. I remember in like 2015, it was like, there's so many good TV shows now coming through, and that was like a novelty. And I remember it was particularly like my parents were like, you don't understand how bad TV used to be and how little TV there was. This is something else. But now it's what we've come to expect. But I also wanted to, I think those are the fairly typical tentpoles when people sort of think about the golden age of TV.
I'm sure there are many great shows.
Are there any that come to your mind that I've missed? Because I have a few.
At the top of my head, no. Did I write something down for this? I would say one that comes to mind as a TV show in the UK is Sherlock, as a big tentpole. Because I remember that being, when did that come out? 2009, 2010?
2010.
So
it might have been whatever, 2010.
But then it took a long break. But that show I remember being significant because it had not big, not huge stars at the time. That was the first time I think I really knew who Benedict Cumberbatch was. But that felt like a really big TV event. When those 3 weeks were on, I remember everyone was like, oh, no, I'm going home to watch Sherlock. I love it. Have you not seen Sherlock yet? It's like this new modern take. 90-minute episodes, never seen TV do 90 minutes before. And then I remember the end of season 2 happening, that ending happening, and everyone wanted to know what happened. So I remember like when season 3 came out, everyone was so desperate to get more of it. I don't think season 3 was as good as the first 2 seasons, but
I stopped watching Sherlock. I can't remember how far it got. Is it just is it open for it to come back at any time? Is it?
Yes, I didn't like the ending. I can't even remember it that well because it kind of felt a bit flat.
Because it only came out in 3-episode chunks every
so
2 years. And also then Cumberbatch and Martin Freeman got so successful.
Yes, I remember then Martin Freeman was shooting The Hobbit, which was like a 2-3 year undertaking, and doing Sherlock at the same time. And he actually turned down The Hobbit because of Sherlock commitments, which he already said agreed to do Sherlock. Yeah. Peter Jackson delayed and restructured the entire shooting of The Hobbit to get Martin Freeman to do it. Him. Which is like a good, what a leap of faith.
It's funny you mentioned that as a British show because
I've come to mind.
But now I've gone through the temples. There are a couple of things that don't get mentioned that much, but I think are significant. So, The Night Manager. Do you remember that in 2016?
Yeah, I didn't see it, but I know.
I didn't see it either, but that was a clear indication. That came out in 2016. You know, huge, prestigious cast. It had Tom Hiddleston, Hugh Laurie, Olivia Colman, Tom Hollander, and Elizabeth Debicki. And it was this very much this sense on a British scale of like, oh, this is like prestigious TV now. This is Golden Age TV. This is like cinema level quality coming to us on BBC One every week. And I think that's interesting. You can feel the ripples spreading out across the world that audiences are starting to demand better, higher quality. I actually think the Night Manager was a co-commission between British and American TV as well, which probably helps
a lot. Oh, the Crown as well, like towards from what 2016?
The Crown, of course. I can't believe I didn't mention. Crown comes on 2016. I think that's it. You know, between Westworld and Game of Thrones ending, I think that's the Crown is the kind of definitive thing as well.
People will say Downton Abbey. I can never get into
Downton Abbey's pre. I think it's pre this. I
think
it
was like an X.
I think
it used to always come on after the X Factor. Yeah,
but
obviously enjoyed,
and then it did very well in America.
Yeah.
I also want to say, Stranger Things. We talked about it in a different way earlier, but I think it's significant in terms of the relationship between TV and film because Stranger Things is a TV show that just draws so heavily, so directly on cinema and film language and film references.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that it's evolved to the point where it's in a TV show. I just always found that quite funny. It can't be a pastiche because it's not a film. If all those things in Stranger Things had been a film, you'd go, bit of a knockoff. But because it's a TV show, they kind of...
Yeah, no, I see what you mean.
Do you think we're also more receptive to TV shows because they're like Stranger Things like that because it's more like a game? Like there's more exploration in it. There's more time.
It's probably just like every single time an episode ends, your mind gets to stop and wonder. That's probably what TV has on its side. Whereas a film doesn't stop. Unless you're watching a trilogy of something. Yeah,
and then you return.
Just quickly on The Crown. I think I was very ready when The Crown came out to be quite cynical of it and call it stupid. But I don't, especially the first 2 seasons.
Yes.
I always thought, you know what, this is really well written. I'm now so into my British royal history, which I've never been into before. And that's why I think that show is good. It took me by surprise.
I totally agree. I actually think The Crown came out just at the right time because I like you was like, oh, this just looks like royalist propaganda. I'm not interested. But crucially, it came out in 2016, which is the year of the Brexit vote, right? And I remember it coming out in this era of just like complete fractured national identity and just kind of like, what does it mean to be British? And here comes this show that presents Britain 70 years ago and gives you this sort of history lesson. And I don't know why it just sort of sat very well with me
history lesson,
during that time. And those fractious Brexit years where there's something about watching The Crown in that time that was just kind of a nice fix.
An episode finishes and like it's a silhouette of the steely resolve of the Queen and the credits roll and I'm like, this is Britain, it shall remain and the monarchy will endure above all. It's like, yes.
I mean, how do you feel about The Crown now?
I thought...
In terms of like the coming seasons. We've got 2 more left.
So I really liked Claire Foy's ones. I liked I thought season 3 was an off season, and I liked season 4, but not as much as Claire Foy's seasons.
I agree. I think the first 2 with Claire Foy and Matt Smith,
fantastic,
really prestigious, great performances. I think the Olivia Colman seasons. Look, I like Olivia Colman. I just don't think that The Crown was her strongest role.
No,
I'm not saying that it was necessarily her. I just think it wasn't a right fit. Something doesn't work. I just don't. When I watch her as the Crown, I don't believe her. I just don't. Something's not gelling. Whereas Tobias Menzies as Philip is wonderful.
Oh, yeah,
and Josh O'Connor as Charles is fantastic. But there's something that didn't gel with me with that. Also, I had like a structural problem with season 4, which is kind of inescapable because that is just the story of the royals. But season 4 comes along and it's like we've got the Queen, we've got Margaret Thatcher, and we've got Princess Diana. You've got 3 of the most famous women in the past 100 years
100%.
in 10 episodes. It is impossible structurally to cover all of those 3 women in an appropriate and proportionate way. So Thatcher would appear for an episode, go away for 3 episodes, and come
their
back.
Own show.
Exactly.
I felt that. I'd be like, what is that? All we're gonna do with that's all we're gonna,
And then you bring and also as a result, it can't really go very deep, so it has to maintain surface level. And so the bits of Thatcher that you get are like, we all kind of know that part of a story, and a little bit with Diana too. And the Queen almost becomes like a supporting character.
Very much so. I think that's what's been a hard transition for us. Is that I think we're still very much latched onto the Queen, but we're now like being told, no, it's Charles and it's this. Like, please pay attention to that.
But I'm interested to see how they land the plane. The thing is that Imelda Staunton. Is that obviously the Diana storyline is a major part of it now, and the Diana storyline is just so sad and so overwhelming. But whereas in the early seasons the story was about many different things, it really is only about Diana. In this one, the show's focused is really about a single issue. And that's fine. It's what happened.
You can argue Royals in that era was very single issue almost.
Yeah, of course.
If you think about 90s Royals, you just think about...
Where do you think they're going up to? I think they're going up to the 2002 Jubilee. Because that was just after Margaret died and just after Queen Mother died.
They're literally going to do 2 more seasons and that's it. Is it just 1 more?
There's 2 more. They did say 1 more, and then they changed their mind and they said they were going back to 2.
Okay. Yeah, turn of the millennium sounds about right. I'm just trying to think about the 90s now. Yeah, because I guess you want to
Fire at Windsor House.
Tony
Windsor
Blair
Castle.
coming in is a very big full stop of like new British in the 21st century. Yeah, sure. Why not? I'm trying to think what comes after that.
What comes after Blair? Well, Diana dies actually 6 months later.
Right. Okay. So that's
then 5 years later you have the Jubilee. Anyway, back to TV. We'll so that was the thing with The Crown. There are just 2 shows I want to mention as well that are significant in this period. Is that a show I've mentioned before, Halt and Catch Fire. Do you remember that? Did I talk about it on the show? Maybe. Or was it the other podcast I do? So Halt and Catch Fire, terrible name. Terrible show. It is a show that I have not met a single person who has seen. If anyone is listening has watched Halt and Catch Fire, please do let me know. So, came out in 2014. It is this show about the tech boom in the 80s, right? And it's about the first season is about the race to make a personal computer, right? So you're against IBM, you're against Microsoft, you're against Apple. They're trying to make a personal computer. The second season is about like the beginnings of the internet and chat rooms and things like that. And the third season is search engines, I think. And then even a fourth season. Good show, but the reason I mention it is not to just again be like, oh, this show is great and it was underwatched. It was actually just fine for the first 2 seasons, then got really good towards the end. But I think only in the golden age of TV, when so much money, time, and resource was put into TV production, would a show like Halt and Catch Fire be able to sustain itself for as long as it did.
Right.
So a show that was fine, barely anyone watched, was about a very niche topic. I think now it would be either wouldn't get made again. We're back to where we started. It wouldn't get made, or it would be dead after one season. I think just because they were investing so much in TV, they kept it going, which was nice in a way. It existed in this little pocket of time, so you are able to watch a show that was allowed to flourish because of this booming period. But you wouldn't get that now, I don't think. And then Mindhunter, yes, I know I've mentioned that before as well, but I think that's significant. So Mindhunter, again, David Fincher's show, another show for Netflix, so post House of Cards. I think that Mindhunter, they made a season, great, then they made a second season, and obviously it's all about the FBI profiling serial killers in the 70s. It's actually about the team that came up with the term serial killer.
I remember you saying.
But that David Fincher said after that, I'm not making any more. It's too exhausting. I can't do it. I'm not making any more. And it's almost like Mindhunter is an example of how the limits of the golden age of TV were reached, right? And that also came out in 2019. And what I mean by that is that was a show that had a big budget, was made by a big streaming service, but it was about such a niche topic that I think one of the directors said, for the amount of eyeballs that it got and the amount of money that it cost, we just couldn't sustain it. And it's like 5 years earlier, maybe they could have kept it going because it was like, look what TV can do. and it's like this. It's almost too deep. It's too far. We have to rein it in, and it's just interesting to see that in an era, in a decade that was all about exploration and expansion of TV. That's almost like the limits. There is a limit to create, even if it's creativity, financial, whatever. It's like
touch the walls.
Yeah, we've touched the walls. We're Truman. We're reaching the walls of the dome, and we can't go any further.
You know what show people have said came out too early, which I hear is great, and I haven't seen, is Hannibal with Mads Mikkelsen.
Yes,
I heard so many people like, oh my God, Hannibal, and it got cancelled and then recommissioned and then eventually cancelled again, and it was like such an outpour of all like it's really small but very loyal fan base, and you almost think, what if a show, do we have more of an appetite for a show like that now with that talent? I can't speak to its quality. I've only heard that it's good. I wish I'm the problem because I heard it was good and didn't see it. But yeah, it's like similar. Like if something had come at the wrong period in this 12 years. Yeah, there you go. We weren't ready.
And then last, I just want to say that then you still get those kind of strange shows that come in and burn bright for a season, and then that's it, limited season. So I mean, Dope Sick and Watchmen come in. Watchmen in particular, 10 years before was made into a film. Now it's being made into a TV show. Much more interesting, much more relevant socio-political take with Oscar-winning talent in it. Regina King was in that, and. That's where we've got to. So
another show that came out just recently is The White Lotus, which you and I very much enjoyed, and I felt like really got everyone talking about it. That is, had its first series, and I hope it continues to keep up its quality, or it will just become like another anecdote like this one.
Yeah. I think White Lotus is also an anthology series. Do you remember? I'm surprised they're still doing that. Like Fargo, True Detective, Black Mirror. There are these anthology series where it's different each time, and I don't know. I feel like that's kind of passé now. I feel like that's kind of over that kind of era of the anthology. I mean, maybe I'm wrong.
Do you think?
Oh, actually, I have an idea for season 2 of White Lotus. They've probably already written it. They're probably already shooting
scratching their heads.
But I was like, I think, assuming that it's going to take place at another White Lotus resort.
Assume so.
With a different staff and different guests.
Yeah.
I think it should all be about a wedding. The whole thing.
Oh, great idea.
Huge wedding party.
Pressure. Right? Yeah.
And the finale is building to the wedding, and you've got a huge wedding party there, and you've also got the guests who aren't part of the wedding. You've got this friction between people within the wedding party and those who aren't the wedding party.
Great idea.
And it's just building towards this thing in the finale. Get me on board, guys.
If you're listening, he does writing consulting now. He'll do it all. George is, George will come up, he'll tell you all about his little chapters of TV, where you've been, where you're going.
Yeah, exactly. This is the future. Anyway, so look, that was the golden age of TV. I that's my sort of take on it. That's my discursive view, and I thought it was just fun to just pick out some shows that have defined our previous years of viewing.
And obviously, there are probably 1,000 shows you're screaming at your phones or your laptops, going, "You didn't mention this." We can't mention all the shows, but I'd love to hear shows that you find are like definitive for your time, or even feel free to talk about the noughties or even like this period now. Just like send us things you think have been like quite defining in their genre.
What was a show that you've watched in the past 10 years that you thought, wow, that's changed the way I think about TV. That's changed the way I watch things now.
Different era, but I would say in the noughties, Lost Mania was huge.
Of course,
and those first few seasons. I mean, we talked before on the show about how it couldn't sustain itself and the writer strikes problems that it deal with. But I remember the mania for that show. That had at the time of its shot the most expensive pilot that was ever shot for a TV show, and it was J.J. Abrams. Not big stars attached, but they all became fairly big in their own right in that era. That's one that comes to mind, but they're all just coming to me now.
So TV, I mean, the term TV itself is so almost arbitrary. And
we should do
passé.
the noughties another time.
Yeah, we'll go back.
I want to talk about like 24 being genre, like such a byproduct of its era. Talk about that show. That has not aged well at all.
I remember you saying.
And then you've got that like tween One Tree Hill OC era.
Yeah.
All the vampire. There's all the vampire ones.
Diaries, Supernatural, all that. Anyway,
it's a whole
other stories. But that was the golden age of TV. Having just talked about the golden age of TV, James. If I was to say to you now, because the problem with the golden age of TV is that we also have streaming services left, right, and centre, and watching TV has never been this expensive. Okay.
Yeah.
So if I said
it's creeping back up to like the old levels.
It's the beginning of the year, and for this whole year, you can only watch and be subscribed to one streaming platform. Which one are you going to choose?
For 1 year.
For 1 year. All the others you have to cancel. You're tightening your belt.
It's a big question because you know what? It's not Netflix.
It isn't, is it?
Because, Disney Plus has the best archive. Pure backlog.
Yeah.
Disney Plus. and they've not been around for as much. But I think I would do Apple, you know, which is out there. But like they have fewer shows, but I feel like they're trying to be the next HBO.
Right.
I can't get HBO in the UK, but I get those through Sky and just like they trickle through in UK services. But like HBO is a really obvious one, but I think I would do Apple. And I think they haven't quite got it yet, but just I think this year, in the last 6 months, a lot of the shows that are coming out are starting to hit. And I think it's only a matter of time before Ted Lasso isn't their only hit.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. I don't have Apple TV anymore. So when I did have it, it was like very early days. So I think I will.
You want to see C with Jason Momoa?
Yeah, it was all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I agree. It wouldn't be Netflix. Netflix is the thing you use to watch the stuff you've already seen.
It is.
I mean, I know I did begin this episode by saying I'm watching the new season of Stranger Things and the new season of Better Call Saul.
Yeah.
But I would just say most of the time I use it to watch old episodes of The American Office.
But the Netflix, that factor of enjoying Netflix is going to run out because every other distributor is getting their own streaming service. So everything that's Paramount, I should now assume now is on Paramount Plus. Yeah. All the Disney stuff will come off. So Netflix's back catalogue, they're either going to have to pay a lot of money to host, or it's just not going to be there.
I actually think it could be Disney for me.
Do you think?
Because the shows are big and blockbuster and glossy and really, you know,
Star Wars, your Marvel.
pretty good. Yeah, you've got your Star Wars, your Marvel. You've got the entire back catalogue of The Simpsons.
Yes.
Also, Disney Plus is really good through the Star channel that it has there. You know, the Star.
Yeah.
They have some really good films on there. I'm talking old films. Films I've watched on Disney Plus like Jennifer's Body and Broadcast News and Working Girl. Just these random films that I haven't seen from the past that have no real relation to Disney as a franchise. Disney just happens to own them. Okay, so Disney's a studio. So it kind of covers all bases for me. I've got old classic films that I haven't seen. I've got new big culture talking point shows that are coming out. I think it's going to be that.
You know what Netflix weirdly still has for it, and I think it's muscle memory, is that sometimes when I don't know what I want to watch, I will look at Netflix first. And I think that is just muscle memory. But really, Disney Plus has probably got more for me to
absolutely.
watch.
I will say that the UX that is the worst is Amazon.
Oh my God.
Amazon,
we haven't even brought up Amazon.
If they sorted their UX, they could be on top of their whole game.
Because Amazon has, like Apple, again, I think Apple TV Plus could still be better, but Amazon has like, oh, you don't have it, but it's only $2.99 to rent for the night. It has that going for it.
The option, you can rent. That is massive.
Yeah.
And also you get the add-ons of like you can have a movie subscription or a BFI.
I just feel like the Amazon Prime films and shows are not of the same quality. You've got like these, you got like the Jack Ryan show.
It's because it all feels like a sort of one strand of a much bigger media conglomerate.
Yeah.
And ironically, even though Disney is one of the biggest entertainment conglomerates there is, I still feel like I'm focused on being Disney Channel. It's not when I'm on Prime. There's all these other bits of like, oh, you can also go do your shopping.
I feel like Disney Plus are in their own building.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And also Amazon will confuse you because they'll be like, you want to watch this? Oh, maybe. Yeah. And also the tennis open's on. Yeah. And also, do you want to watch the Manchester City final?
Yeah, that's it.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Anyway, interesting. I'm sure that'll change over time, but just thought I'd ask.
They'll surely do a big redesign, rebrand. Yeah.
It's overdue.
But yeah.
Stop going to space, Jeff, and focus on your UX.
Okay, George. I was in a rush today. I was looking for a game. And I went through the endless library of Sporkle.
Oh, Sporkle.
And
great.
a lot of them I was like, but then
explain Sporkle to people who don't know.
Sporkle, if you've ever, pretended to revise for your GCSEs, Sporkle is a sort of almost like a game quiz news featurette website on all sorts of different topics. There's like books, TV, gaming, movies.
Imagine BuzzFeed, but instead of articles, they were games.
They were games. So like, can you name all the first generation 150 Pokemon? You've got 10 minutes. Can you name every single Harry Potter character? You've got 5 minutes.
Can you name this company logo without the writing on it?
Some of them are like, can you type numbers 1 to 100? And how fast can you do it? I've been at office. I've wasted hours at offices competing with people like 1, 2, 3, 4. And you're like trying to type out the numbers. It's just really dumb stuff. But if you need to concentrate,
if you want to
do not go there.
You're in the right place.
Anyway, I saw one which really tickled me because of its inherent structure, which is film antonyms. So a synonym is like another word for something, and an antonym is the opposite. Okay. So for example, what we're going to do is I'm going to give you the antonyms of film titles, and you have to tell me what film I'm talking about.
Okay, brilliant.
It should be fairly quick fire, but just like, for example, Tiny Mummy would be
Big Daddy.
There you go. Okay, so we're just gonna run through these. Okay, George, tell me what these films are based on their antonyms. Ready?
Okay.
Quick fire. 3, 2, 1, go. Sunny Woman.
Rainy Dad, Rainy Day, Rainy Man, Rain Man. Jesus.
Russian Ugly.
American Beautiful. American Beauty.
Front Door.
Back Garden. Back window. Rear window.
I love your
Christ.
fighting them out.
It's like I don't speak English.
This is good. Your Worst Enemy's Divorce.
My Best Friend's Wedding.
Yeah. Nice Boys.
Bad Guys. Nice Boys. Bad Girls. Bad Mums. Bad Women. Say it again.
Nice Boys.
Nice Boys. Bad Girls. Bad Women. Mean Girls. Oh, God.
A Lot of Bad Women.
A Few Good Men.
Live Soft.
Die Hard.
The Night Before Yesterday.
The Day After Tomorrow.
Save Phil.
Kill Bill.
Bad Won't Fishing.
Good Will Hunting.
Yes State for Young Women.
No. Was it
Yes State for Young Women.
No. Country for Old Men.
Catwoman Ends.
Batman Begins.
Cowardly Young. Cowardly Lung. Sorry.
Lung.
Cowardly Lung.
Lung. Cowardly Lung. Braveheart.
Forward to the Past.
Back to the Future.
You Hate Me, Woman.
I Love You, Man.
Most Hate It Cold.
Some Like It Hot.
Unblemished But. Unblemished But.
Beautiful
That's hard.
and
Scarface. That's hard.
Scarface.
Unblemished
right.
But.
Oh,
Yeah.
I see.
Her Boy Monday.
His Girl Friday.
The Arrived.
The Departed.
The Dropout.
The Graduate.
The Bad, the Good, and the Beautiful.
The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Down.
Up.
The Stan Mother. The Satan Mother.
The Godfather.
Oh, there you go. That's
Oh,
done. I saw that and I was chuckling to myself going through. But there you go. That's all we have as a game
So
today.
stupid, yet it's so brilliant.
So entertaining. Thank you very much for listening to another episode of Pulp Kitchen. Don't forget that we post new episodes of this show every single Wednesday.
And James, you're going to check that WhatsApp message you just got, aren't you?
Yeah, I just get it.
Don't forget that we have content coming out on the channel throughout the whole week. Stay tuned. You may have just listened to this episode and think, wow, I'm full on Pulp Kitchen for this week. But you'll be wrong because there's more coming.
You might want to know where's more.
Yeah, you might want to know where's more. Full or unfull. You've got reviews. You've got other stuff coming out. Keep an eye on the channel.
Reviews
throughout.
come out Fridays now.
And, you know, if you could just give us like a thumbs up and a star and a like and all that stuff on the relevant channel, that would be very appreciated.
Someone messaged me the other day and they said we were on 499 subscribers on YouTube and they did the 500. They were like, I'm the 500th, I'm the 500th. Be the 500 and something else.
Yes.
Or come on, get us to 600. Do it.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank
Please.
you.
Bye.
See you next week.